Hi everyone! I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. I have a new setup here and I'm trying to figure out the logistics of the videos that I'll be recording and what best suits the environment, the platform, the scenery, the topic. So be patient with me while I figure it out. I know that every video is kind of a little bit scattered on different platforms and also recorded in different placements in my house. But as time goes by, as I'm recording a video each and every day, I think I'll be able to figure it out. It'll be fairly easy to figure out, audio wise as well, because I know sometimes you can hear a bit of echoing, but please be patient with me while I try to figure things out on my end. So today I wanted to quickly as I was sitting here, I thought I would hop on and make a video out of the blue, as I always do. And I have this little setup going on that's a bit different than the setup in the other videos. Let me know if you guys prefer this kind of setup where it's more close up and personal, or the further setup where it's more formal and professional. I'm still trying to figure it out. But yeah, so I wanted to hop on today to just have a little chit chat. I don't quite know of the topic that I will be touching base on. So for each and every one of my videos, it's not like I hop on with anything pre-planned to say. Typically I just set up the scene, turn on the camera, and then the information comes to me. And I don't really pre-script anything. I don't, like in the past, I've post-edited things out when I would say like an extra word or stutter where there's a sentence. But typically, well, not typically, 100% of the time I would hop on and generate the content on the spot for you guys, and today is no different. So as I was thinking, since I started this video, kind of want to touch base on something else that's been on my mind for a while. And it is a topic that I haven't really touched base on before. In the recent times, I'm sure that you guys have noticed some activity happening in the Middle East. I won't name any names per se, but a lot of government structures have been shifting. A lot of decisions have been made to benefit these government structures that have ever so been shifting throughout the years and the millennia, and the days, the months, the years to come will be a difficult one, prejudging by the circumstance that has arisen and that has been transpiring in the past couple of years, leading up to a precipice of violence, leading up to a precipice of disagreements, leading up to a precipice of deaths, confusion within the population, generations of homes, generations of homelands being moved, being distorted into a reality field that's so painful, that's triggering a reaction from people in general, people around the world, people as a consciousness as a whole, who are watching in shock, who are watching in disbelief, who don't resonate with what's happening, but with everything that they're seeing, everything that they're viewing, everything that they're hearing, and all of the collective energies that are circulating in the air at any given moment, at any given time, these people have made a decision to take a stand, to take a stance within the political landscape, to come to an agreement or a disagreement as to which side is right, which side is wrong, which side should win, which side deserves to lose, which side you're on, which side he's on, which side she's on. How dare you be on this side, you know? You're wrong for believing in what's transpired that the other side has been claiming is true. And facts will always be facts, but the judgments of the general population, of the general people, of the normal human beings on planet Earth, who on a day-to-day basis live a normal life, there's no way that they can decipher or determine what's a true fact within any given scenario politically. And that is a true fact. So my greatest and biggest advice that I can give a humanity that is so easily swayed, that is so sensitive to external energies, to negative influences, to the idea of the separation that's been inflicted upon us as an entirety of a whole society, is just to relax. Relax into the energies and decipher and determine what's true and what's real in that moment in time that you're feeling nervous and that you're feeling anxious about the activities that have been happening in the Middle East. I can tell you in this moment in time that there are many parties involved, that these scenarios, these plots, these unfortunate events have been predetermined, have been pre-planned, have been pre-concocted by a government system that has been in control of civilizations, by a leadership system that have been plotting for not the best interest of the whole entirety of consciousness of planet Earth. And the game that they're playing is a game of separation, is a game of he did this, she did this, he deserves this, therefore when she does that, she will deserve to succumb to the energies of what she deserves. And this way of thinking is mass manipulation of a society who do not quite yet understand the purpose of their existence, even on this planet Earth, the inner workings of consciousness and where they come from as a singular fractal of a God's consciousness that's so great and so grand. And the sensitivity that surrounds the air in this moment in time is almost like a thin film that is about to burst. And when I say burst, I mean, just envision a film being stretched over our atmosphere, and it's being stretched super, super thin, and it's being stretched from all directions by all parties, by all of the conglomerated whole of the darkness that has ever existed in our society, in our culture, that has been manipulating our consciousness since the beginning of time, that has been controlling humanity, humanoids, since they've had control over this atmosphere. And this film that's being stretched super thin at the moment within this atmosphere is getting to a point where it can no longer hold all of the incoming energies that are projected to hit our society. Currently, it is working. It's working to keep out all of the positive energies, all of the wholeness of who we are has been blocked out by this film. And you may not understand the concept of this in this moment in time, but as this film stretches and skews and begins to ripple and eventually forms a rip that massacres this entire film into the ethers, as it explodes and expands and trickles out into the edges of all that you know, it's going to get to a point of expansion that's so massive and so steeped in distortions that it will burst. And in the moment that this film bursts, there's no stopping the light from coming through. There's no stopping the light that has always been there to penetrate past the ricocheted pieces of this negativity, of this fire that has been burning for an eternity within our soul, within our societal structures, within all that you know on every single level of the light, of your true being on an inherent level. And once this happens, the darkness will be scared. Scared to the point that it's going to pull out every single trick in its bag, to a point where society itself will feel so much turmoil, will feel so much confusion. We will turn on each other as humanity looks at each other and tries to determine and decipher who's at fault. Who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy? What did you do? What did he do? What did she do? Without realizing, as a conglomeration of the whole of who we are, that we're innocent. We're all innocent on so many layers and levels of energetic frequencies, on so many layers and levels of your grandma, your grandpa, your family, you know, the soldier that massacred the city across the street, the men and women that died in the middle of the night, unsuspecting of their fate, that succumbed to the bombing of their precious homeland. The military personnel that became enthralled during these tasks to perform atrocities upon a population that's been so unsuspecting in the middle of the night. We're all innocent. All of us, each and every single fractal of a soul of humanity, we're all innocent. On every single level, we've been turned against each other in a way that is so wholesome, in a way that you won't begin to understand the meaning of this wholesomeness. But as you awaken and you begin to see the truth of reality, and you begin to see the darkness for what it really is, and you begin to tap in to the facts of a history that has never been shared with us as a humanity, of the history of who we truly are as a civilization level, on a soul level, on a God level, what we're doing here, who planted us on earth, you know, on every single level that I could ever articulate to you. When we wake up to these true facts, you will begin to come to a realization of the innocence of it all. No matter how much hatred you hold in your heart right now, no matter how much separation energy and how much you can't understand or don't understand what is happening, as a lot of people in this moment in time are holding on to so much grief, are holding on to so much anger, are holding on to so much of everything that's happened to our society as an inherent whole of what is, and they're just holding on to it, and they can't make sense of all of the emotions that are rushing through, and they won't be able to make sense of it until the day that they awaken. But as they slowly awaken, and this film begins to stretch and skew to a point where it reaches a point and a perspective of total annihilation of the darkness that it's been holding up for all of this time, it will slowly begin to expand and ricochet, because the darkness, though this film has been holding up a certain energetic frequency, this frequency is no longer allowed to penetrate the brightness of what is, to penetrate the inherentness of what you are and what we are on a societal level, and on a whole level, and on every single level of who we are as human beings, as God's consciousness, as a consciousness that's so great and so grand. And as a lot of you won't be able to make sense of what's happening out there on the other side of the world, in your hometown, across the street from you, to your family members, to another, generation, to another society that seems like They are a world away, on the other side of the world. You will begin to realize something as you come into this confusion, as you step into the darkness, as you sink into not being able to cope with it, not being able to deal with it, because it's just going to get worse from now. I can tell you that this is the beginning of the stretching of this film, where it's gotten to a point where the darkness within has started to already bring out all of their arsenals. They are preparing for war. They are preparing for mass destruction. They are preparing to fight for an existence that they've existed for millions of years of evolutionary feats. The darkness is no longer allowed to traverse our quantum verse, as God has decided that this game of the darkness, of the exploration of the opposite of self, is going to come to an end. And so as we near the end of a time that we have been traversing for generations, and for reincarnations, and for cycles of life upon death upon life upon death, of reincarnation cycles that never ever ends, the darkness, the parts of the self, the aspects and the fractal souls of a God's consciousness that has decided to traverse the darkness, as they've forgotten about who they truly are, as they've forgotten of the light that they hold within, are fighting. They're petrified, and they're fighting for a placement. They're fighting for their existence. They're fighting for the right to walk the plains of Mother Gaia. They're fighting for the frequency that they live in. They're fighting with all that they have. They've started to take out everything in their arsenal, to a point where, as the time passes, within the coming of years, you will begin to notice a grand shift, a great shift in the energetic field, and it will be filled with darkness. And the darkness that I speak of is so massive and so grand. It's so filled with distortions. It's filled with children running down the streets with tears in their eyes because they can't find their parents. It's filled with parents bleeding to death on the ground as a bomb just has dropped across the street. And the fractal ricochets have concocted a plan to bombard them with the energy of the fractals of the bomb that have ricocheted into their bodies from down the street. And at this point in time, as you notice this, as you notice the collective negativity, the collective darkness ramping up in strategies, as you notice government structures making decisions that do not benefit the whole of society, that do not benefit the children, that do not benefit the parents, that do not benefit the teachers, that do not benefit people on the other side of the world, that is allowing and causing people to turn on each other as a society, and on every single level within our societal structure, as we turn on each other and look at each other with so much aggression, so much anger, so much blame, so much hatred. That is when you will notice a great shift in consciousness. That is when an entire society as a whole will look at each other and pause for one final time. And as they pause, maybe even just for a split second, they will know in that inherent second, as we look into each other's eyes, as we feel into each other's hearts, as we reach into each other's energy field, that we are all one, and we're all one of the same consciousness that's existed since the beginning of time. That there's no point in fighting, that there's no point in judging, that there is no point in these wars, that there is no point in these deaths, that there's no point in these children feeling scared in the middle of a night, not knowing if they or their parents can make it out alive. That there's no point in this entire civilizations migrating to a different place in the world. That there's no point to all of the destruction that we've been witnessing, that we've been traversing, and that we've been living for generations upon generations. within the Israeli lands, of all lands. Israel is a topic that I will touch base on. And it might be a controversial topic at that. But I won't be afraid to speak of my homeland, of a land that I created with so much love in my heart, with so much love in my soul, as I descended down in a fractaled lifetime to encompass all that I am and all that we are into a place so filled with love, so filled with hatred, so filled with all that we are not. As in the moment of descension into the bodily fluids that filled the physicality of myself, of what is, there was a power so great and so grand that descended at the same time into a land so innocent, into a land so filled with innocence, so filled with love, so filled with the greatness and grandness of all that it is and all that we are on all inherent levels. This energy that I speak of is a satanic energy. It is the energy of Lucifer. It is the energy of the Luciferian regimes that have resided within the Israeli lands since the beginning of time, since the beginning of the descent of the energetic frequency of a source consciousness that is so great and so grand into a land of all that it is, that holds the fruits of a civilization, of creation itself, of all of the hopes, of all of the dreams, of all of the fractaled souls that have ever fractaled out and have lived a life on the sacred lands of Israel. These souls have suffered massively due to this fact of this ancient war of darkness versus light, of evil versus good, of the biblical war that the Bible even speaks of. And this biblical war is set to come to an end. As all of these prophecies start to come true one by one, as you will see in the coming of times, that these prophecies will become fulfilled. All of these biblical prophecies. We will step into a time of what I will describe as the end of a time. Of the end of the time of a darkness that has proceeded to subside within the underneath layer of the Israeli lands, of an innocent land, controlling a group of innocent people. Since the beginning of a time that you do not remember, but I remember very well. And within this time, within this earth span, within the creation of all that we are, Israel represents God's consciousness in an entirety of the whole of what is. And within the representation of what it is, there lives a darkness so steeped in distortions, so desperate to squash and squish and put out the light of this representation of a God's consciousness that is so great and so grand, that has created this land as a reflection of the homeland of where we come from, as an energetic reflection of a place in a geological area of Mother Gaia that directly coincides with the direction and the proceeds of this direction is directed towards the heavens above, towards where Jesus came from, towards Jesus himself. And as I speak of Jesus in this moment in time, and I know that not the entire world, not the entirety of consciousness in this moment in time even believes that there is a Jesus. There is a Yeshua. There's a fractal soul that incarnated on this planet Earth. That is, was, and will ever be the right hand of God. The right hand of a God's consciousness that encompasses all of us. But I know in my heart of all hearts that as I speak of Jesus, I can only come to one conclusion. And that one conclusion is that he was real. He is real. He did exist. He was a fractal, and he fractaled from God, and he was God's right hand. He encompassed an energetic frequency so great and so grand that he was the sacrificial lamb of the energetic field of a God that was, is, and will always be so great and so grand, that had decided to fractal out a part of its energetic field in a way that no other fractal can understand in this moment in time. To anchor in a light so bright, to anchor in a light so steeped in forgiveness, to anchor in a light so steeped in all that we are, all that it is, and all that God is. And to begin the descent of this heavenly frequency into this earth sphere, into Gaia's earth sphere, as a civilization that had been residing upon Gaia were so lost in that moment in time. And as the decision was made to fractal out a large part of God's energetic frequency to anchor down the light into the three-dimensional frequency of Gaia, the name Yeshua came to mind. Came to mind of a God's consciousness that is so steeped in forgiveness, that is so whole in all that it is, in a moment when it knew that it would experience a consciousness so separated from the entirety of the whole that it was so used to experiencing from the center point of perspective of neutrality that it had been so used to sitting in. And knowing that fractaling out into the beginning of this lifespan, into the beginning of this grand and great journey would be the greatest and grandest sacrifice that it had ever made within the inception of the quantum realm of what is, to leverage out so much of its energetic field into a place of darkness, into a place so steeped with distortions, into a place so filled with all that it's not, into a place steeped in a consciousness of all that it is that had forgotten what it really is, was the biggest and greatest and grandest sacrifice that God could have ever perform in that moment in time, if time was really a thing. Biblical stories are not really my thing. I've never read the Bible once in my life, but I can tell you for a fact, and I can tell you as a truth of what is, that Yeshua was a thing. Yeshua was a person. Yeshua was a fractal. Yeshua really existed. In a time of the Israeli times, in a land of Israel, his energetic frequency dominated the entirety of the Israeli lands ever since the moment of fractaling into a land so dense in energetic frequency, into a time so filled with darkness and distortions. And as he anchored this land, this energy into the land of Israel, he knew in his heart of all hearts that one day he would have to perish by the hands of a people that belonged to him, that were him. They were him on every single level, in every single way that you can ever imagine. They've just been so lost. And to sit in the forgiveness and the grandness of the perspective that he sat in was the ultimate sacrifice that God could have ever given to a humanity so lost and so steeped in distortions. As the light that Yeshua anchored in is still within the core of Gaia, is still within the frequency of all that we are as a societal whole, traversing a reality field of 50% darkness and 50% brightness. The light that Yeshua anchored is here now. It is still here since the beginning of a time so steeped in distortions. It will always be here until we reach a time of the 1,000 years of peace. It will grow to a point, to a perspective of a unity consciousness that is so great and so grand that once and for all, every single fractaled soul, every single person that has ever resided on Mother Gaia in this moment in time will be able to see the greatness and grandness of God itself, will be able to witness and see the sacrifice that God made by fractaling out Yeshua in a time to rescue a humanity in a great and grand plan and a scheme to anchor down the heavenly light of what is into a planetary field that is so filled with distortions, that is so filled with the three-dimensional frequency. And as I sit here and speak of Yeshua, you may not understand. You may be sitting in a place of judgment. You may be sitting in a place of disbelief. You may have even stopped this video a while ago and tapped out. You may even unfollow me at this point. But as I sit here and speak to you of the energies of what is and the truth of a reality field so steep in distortions, I can tell you this one thing is for sure. That as you walk down your path that you were always meant to walk down, as you traverse in a dark environment that you were always meant to see the light at the end of the tunnel, within this dark environment, you will come to a realization, no matter how you react to the information that I'm putting out into the ethers, you will circle around and see me and see my energetic frequency for what it is. At the end of the road, at the end of the path, at the end of a distortion that's so great and so grand that is set to expire, you will turn around and see the light. And at the end of that tunnel, you will see a light that is so big, so great and so grand, so all-encompassing of all that it is and all that you are, that you won't be able to reject it, you won't be able to deny it. You will no longer be able to succumb to the darkness that is within. And during this time, you will come to a realization that I was right all along. That the energy that I encompass portrays on every single level an energy that is so great and so grand that has expanded in all directions into the ethers of what is. As this energy anchors down into the core of Gaia in ways that you and I shall never understand in any moment in time of the soul's fractal. As the energy that I encompass is the energy of Yeshua and the energy of all that he is, all that he was, all that he shall ever be. As my life is a continuation of the energetic frequency that he anchored down within the core of Gaia, within his time, within his lifespan, within the fractal lifespan of a soul that is so great and so grand that it can only be considered as the right hand of God. And as I sit here and declare this to you in this very moment in time, I'm also sitting in an energy of disbelief. But as I've awakened to the truths of what is, this message is something that I must put out into the ethers, into consciousness itself. As you walk your path and you begin to circle around and see what is and see the reality of a truth so steeped in distortions, you will see my face. You will see Genesis ordained at the end of the tunnel of the light that I speak of. And when you see my face and we lock eyes, in that moment in time, you and I will come into the greatest and grandest realization that you have ever come to in all of your soul fractals, within a lifetime so steeped in distortions, within a journey of your oversoul, so steeped in all that you are not. And this realization will never leave you until the end of a time, of no tomorrows. And that realization, ladies and gentlemen, is that we are one. You are me and I am you. You are a fractal of Yeshua. I am a fractal of Yeshua. You are a fractal of God. God is a fractal of Yeshua. Yeshua is a fractal of a God's consciousness that is so great and so grand, that its energetic frequency has permanently anchored down into this frequency of all that we are, all that it is, and all that God is. And as my existence here on earth is limited in perspective, is limited in time, is limited in the energetic frequency of all that I am in this moment in time, you and I will merge in a way that I can never explain to you in this moment in time. As we come to the greatest and grandest realization of all, that we are one on every single level as a societal whole, as a God's consciousness that is so great and so grand on every single level of who you are, who I am, who Yeshua is on every single level of purity, of greatness, of grandness, of an overarching soul, of an oversoul that is so relentless in all of its adventures, in the seeking of the comfort of its friends, of its foes, of all of the arduous journeys that it has ever encompassed within these fractal lifetimes. You and I, at the end of this road, at the point of this light that I speak of, will merge into one. And the oneness that we will become will bring us into a purity, into a wholeness that you shall never imagine and you could never envision in this moment in time. But as I sit here and deliver this message to you, I just want to let you know that that is something for you to look forward to. That is something for me to look forward to. That is something for the entirety of a society so steeped in distortions to look forward to. In this moment in time and in all moments in time succeeding this moment in time. Into an energetic frequency that is so eternal that it can only be described as the concept of God, as the concept of oneness, as a concept of a unity consciousness that's so great and so grand, that it has never left us since the beginning of a time so arduous, since the inception of a quantum realm, of all quantum realms, of the quantum realm that we reside in. And as our journey comes to an end of what is, I would like to say this one thing. The times ahead will be hard. The times ahead will be arduous. The times ahead will be like no other time that you've ever experienced in this fractaled oversoul, in this fractaled soul, in this fractal lifetime, in any lifetime that you've fractaled into. But the times ahead will bring in a great shift in consciousness of the entirety of the whole, towards a light that is so bright, towards a light that is so encompassing of all that you are, of all that has never left you, of all that the darkness is not. And in this time of all times, we will compartmentalize all of the darkness that is within. We will compartmentalize all of the darkness that is within the lands of Israel. As the tunnels and the floodgates open up underneath this land to receive heavenly light, funneling into planet Gaia, in a moment in time of the Ascension energies, the darkness will subside and be tranquilized into nothingness, into the nothingness that it was, into the nothingness that it will ever be, as we encompass the light in its purity, in an entirety of a whole, of a situation, of a collective, of a unity consciousness, of all that we are, as we encompass the darkness of a reality field that has been around for far too long, of a reality field of distortions. You will begin to finally come to an understanding of what that was all about, of what this journey was all about, of what the pain and just the distortions have all been about. And as you come to this realization and this great and grand understanding, you will see my face. As we smile at each other and gaze at each other and come to a realization that we are one and we are whole, and that we have never been separated, and that we have been together this whole entire time, and that we will never be apart.